Welcome to the India Today roundtable that we are going to have. We are calling it
देखिए,
Sangam,
कुंभ में
Confluence of
आस्था तो है
Minds.
ही,
And
विज्ञान
the
भी।
whole focus is
आकाश
going to
में
be on the Kumbh.
विशेष नक्षत्र मिलते
The
हैं।
whole idea was that first come and have a dip in India Today's gathering today. Listen to our scholars, our politicians, several anthropologists, historians, classicists. Come and listen to them what the Kumbh is. And then the idea was that go and take a dip in the Sangam. So we held it a day before the Kumbh is to be inaugurated in Prayagraj. India today has always been a pioneer in conclaves. We've had several conclaves on several subjects of national and global significance. We've been holding the State of the State in Uttar Pradesh. We had one in 2016. We've had several Aaj Tak organized festivals for youth, for politicians. Similarly, we've done that all over the country. The State of the State has taken place already in 10 states of the country, where we compare districts on several parameters. Similarly, we have one where we do a comparison between all the states in the country. Then we have one every year, which takes into consideration the mood of the country. So this was the first time we thought, let's have a conclave on the Kumbh itself. Let people from different traditions come and engage their minds, debate the entire issue. Kumbh, as most of you know, is basically a mass pilgrimage. I mean, we will be discussing it in the first session itself. There's a lot of debate on when the Kumbh began. A lot of people think that it started around, the time Shankaracharya came and organized the various akhadas. A lot of people think the idea of Kumbh originated much before. In fact, in the antiquity, the whole idea that it's supposed to be a manthan between the gods and the so-called non-gods, let me use the term, the devas and the so-called non-devas. And the idea was, from there it originated, and it was initially rather small, not compared to today's standards. One of the Chinese sort of travelers, Huyen Sang, points out that the people used to collect in a fair in Allahabad. At that time, it was called Prayag. So in Prayag, a lot of sadhus would collect. And he apparently predicted that it won't last for very long, because he thought that the whole idea of taking a dip and then cleansing yourself itself for him was something he didn't quite understand. So he predicted that in a couple of centuries, it will get over. But instead, we saw it growing in terms of today we have millions coming from all over the world. In fact, one of the anthropologists who studied it points out that during the 1940s, it developed a political character. The reason was the British tried to actually stop it, because sometimes there would be what the British claimed, violence between the various groups of sadhus. And as a result, they gave it a very colonial sort of a statement. They used the term that it was a center of criminality, and they tried to stop it. And Allahabad being the house of the Nehrus, Allahabad being the house of, Madan Mohan Malviya, so the Congress party started protesting against it. And the Kumbh became the site of the nationalist struggle, and therefore grew in political significance. So it took actually an extraordinary sort of political site for struggle against the British colonial state. And that is very interesting, because at one level, you have intellectual ferment. At the other level, you have the sadhus coming and performing rituals, which for them has a lot of meaning. And at a third level, it took a political character. And lots of interesting books have been written on it. In fact, both by Indian scholars in Sanskrit, in Hindi, and in English, and in several other languages, some of them which I have gone through, have pointed out various aspects of it. And I thought, because Yogi ji hasn't come here, I'll just sort of briefly touch upon it. Let me start with a couple of the Western scholars who studied the Kumbh. Probably the most well-known name is Diane Eck. She is a professor at Harvard in the Harvard School of Divinity and Philosophy. And her PhD was on Varanasi. And after that, she wrote several books on Hinduism, absolutely what I would call cutting-edge work, a lot of sympathy for the Hindu tradition. And in 2013, when the Kumbh took place, she actually came here, and she came with a lot of departments of Harvard. In fact, Professor Tarun Khanna, some of you probably know him, is a professor in the management school at Harvard. He sort of handled one entire section of the Kumbh. His idea was that there is something called the ephemeral city. Ephemeral city is the city that is formed for a period of, let's say, about 3 months, and where you have the entire tents and it's sometimes called with other names. In Hindi, it's called the Nagari. So the whole management of the Nagari is fascinating because it's put up at a very short interval, and usually in the past, when the Kumbh is over, it is disposed of. But during the period when the Kumbh is held, which is for a period of, let's say, 2.5 months, the kind of micromanagement that is done, security, ensuring that people don't get killed in the rampages or in the so-called pushovers, the management of basic amenities like, toilets and water and all kinds of things that more than almost 1 billion people, when they collect, the things that you would need at a short notice. So that system of management, Tarun and his colleague Vera, they have done excellent work on that in 2013. And initially, we had thought in India today that we will hold this conclave in 3 cities, Lucknow, Delhi, and we had thought of Los Angeles. But because of logistics, we were not able to hold it. Several of the scholars who were supposed to come, they could not come because other competing, because of other seminars that are going on. This time, for example, the media has taken a lot of interest. I don't know how many of you are aware, the budget this time is almost 4,300 crores for the Kumbh. In fact, at one time, I was told that the entire annual budget of UP used to be less than that. And just for the Kumbh, you've had 4,300 crore. Of course, as many of the officials told me, that a major focus of that was infrastructure, refurbishing of Allahabad, the making of roads and the highways and things of that sort. But despite that, a lot of money has gone into the Kumbh. So what we will do during the course of the day, we'll have several sessions in which we will discuss the intellectual ferment, the idea that is the Kumbh, then the entire sort of the politics of the Kumbh, at the same time, the economics of the Kumbh, the cultural aspects. Please welcome the Chief Minister, Yogi Adityanath ji. Rohit, why don't you also join? Sir, baitha ja. Now that I have given you a background on the Kumbh, let me sort of, because we will be discussing it the whole day, so let's introduce, first of all, let me begin by thanking Yogi Adityanath ji for coming to our conclave. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद सर इस कॉन्क्लेव को इनॉग्रेट करने के लिए और ये सारा दिन हम यहाँ पर कॉन्क्लेव करेंगे और वेरियस डिफरेंट एस्पेक्ट्स डिस्कस करेंगे Yogi Adityanath ji, most of you are more aware of him than I am, but you know that he has been chief minister for a little less than 2 years of India's largest state. He's barely in his mid-40s, and when he became the chief minister, I was the first one with Ashish Mishra, my colleague, to go and interview him. And I remember that the first question I asked him, कि योगी आदित्यनाथ जी आपका क्या vision है इस state के लिए? And this was early morning, 7 बजे सुबह, first interview of mine at 7 in the morning. And Yogi Adityanath ji closed his eyes and then he told me कि अजीत जी बहुत बड़े जटिल समस्या हैं इस राज्य के. And then he told us the kind of stories of poverty, 2-3 stories बताया pollution का, and he told me कि इस राज्य, then he was talking about out migration of students from the state to all over the country, and he sort of, for me, it was such a different experience, because the moment you ask a politician, what is your vision, they start talking about their achievements. But Yogi ji, typical to the fact that he wears a double hat, most of you know that he's the chief priest of the Gorakshnath temple and also the chief minister, he in a very pensive mood, he began telling me the kind of problems that he envisages that the state would face. And now that he came, as soon as he became chief minister, his first decision was the loan waiver of the farmers in the state. After that, he's handled several sort of, packages of the central government, like soil health card scheme, like insurance, for example. In fact, Uttar Pradesh has done remarkably well when it comes to insurance of farmers. I could go on and on, count on the several schemes that he did for the farmers. After that, in 2018, there was this great investors summit. And the investors summit was one of the most successful summit in the state, because do realize that Uttar Pradesh is the most populous state, the pivotal state in the country, which has produced almost 9 chief ministers and 9 prime ministers, and yet the state is very poor. In the last State of the State conclave that we did, Eastern UP, where Yogi Adityanath ji technically is from, Gorakhpur, per capita income is almost half that of Western UP. But Yogi ji's focus, as you can see, via the Kumbh and many of the other programs of his government has been to fight the sort of inequality inside the state, to transform the state in a major way. In fact, one of his biggest achievements is in education. Over here in Uttar Pradesh, for a while, used to have mass copying, during exams. And he took such a tough line that I remember some Delhi University professors telling me, आजकल बहुत कम विद्यार्थी उत्तर प्रदेश से आते हैं वहाँ. तो मैंने कहा कि वो काफी crackdown हुआ है. Soon you will start seeing many more students coming. But that immediately ends up strengthening the very educational system of the state. So in that sense, it's very important the various steps he has taken. Economically, I think the state is doing much better than what Yogi Adityanath ji was faced with. But politically, I have been here for the last 1 week in Taj Hotel yesterday. The Samajwadi Party and the BSP alliance was formally formed. So politically, for the young chief minister, right before the Lok Sabha elections, this is the first big challenge. A bit of the challenge one noticed during the by-polls in Gorakhpur and Phulpur, but the challenge is going to be in 2019. But given Yogi Adityanath ji's record, remember, as a youngster, when he came from Uttarakhand all the way and joined the temple in Gorakhnath, he replaced his guru, and he contested elections and won 5 elections in a row. So he has extraordinary skills in terms of what we call election management, what we call political sagacity, and we wish him all the best for 2019. And UP, as I pointed out, has had 9 prime ministers in this country. We hope that we have a young potential prime minister in the future. Thank you very much.